Тема такая. Я нашел нам работу. У этого хрена припрятано 300 кусков!
Он что, слепой?
Что-то как-то не хочется грабить слепого.
It's, I think, like, something I have discovered is that because the audience knows that Hollywood always give you the morally correct ending, when you have a character that is doing everything right, you know who's going to win, you know who's going to survive, you know, it's that person, it's the one that is morally more sane, or whatever you want to call it. And so I have found that when you have characters that have shady morals and nobody's doing everything that is 100% right, it makes for great suspense, it makes for great endings. Like, you never know how it's going to end because you don't know who's supposed to win. Like, so when you don't know that, it just makes for a more entertaining story. You just can't wait to see the end. But I haven't invented that. Like, Hitchcock did that on every one of his movies. If you look back at Psycho, like, she's stealing all this money and going away with it. Like, she's not doing something great. But then, you know, in most of his movies, like, he did that, and I really admire that. And so we really were trying to put that in this.
How idea was this movie born? What inspired it?
I don't know. Honestly, it's one of the things that you just think about. You know, we want to do a very suspenseful movie, and we knew that something that created a lot of suspense was, you know, when it's the home invasion world, but particularly when you have the protagonist of your story walking in someone else's domains, right? Our private property is very sacred, so when we see that happens on the screen, it just startles you because it makes you nervous because you don't want to think that someone will do that in your home at night. But and at the same time, we knew that we needed more than that. We needed a very worthy opponent, but we needed a very cinematic opponent. And that's when the idea of the blind man came about. And I think as soon as we had the robber stories and the blind man as the opponent, it was incredible how much ideas will jump out of the page right away. And it was such a fertile, you know, ground.
Получилось?
Конечно, спит как младенец.
Ребят, если где-то прятать деньги, то там.
А пистолет тебе зачем?
I noticed that your cinematic style a little bit changing or improving. I don't know which way it is more correct, but I enjoyed the picture. And it felt almost like a stage, like a theater.
Yeah.
And I wonder, what was your basic the new ideas that you come up with the filming this movie? How are you developing your style in the process?
I think I had a little more freedom in a way, not the freedom of the studio producer, no, mental freedom on this movie to really do what I felt I had to do. On Evil Dead, it was more rules of what Evil Dead was. It was more trying to synthesize what are those classics are about and really trying to put them in a new movie. Here, I had a little more freedom in every level. So I think when it comes to the camera, what I wanted the camera to do and move and the things that I want to do in that level, I could do whatever I wanted. And then, you know, stylistically, I think it also has to do with the story. Something I learned on Evil Dead was to really pay attention to the audience. Like, usually when I watch my movies, I'm like, my back is to the screen most of the time, and I'm just watching the audience because I love that. I make the movies for the audience, and I'm fascinated by how to react to certain things, how they judge the characters' behavior, what they did, why they should have done this, when they should have done this thing. And I realized that I have to be very faithful to the truth as a writer. Like, I have to be faithful to what's reality, what characters will do in those situations. Nobody's super heroic in those situations. That doesn't exist. So, and that it helped me to connect with the audience even more because I get the audience to nod in when the characters are doing most of the things. I mean, some things, of course, they always like, you go like, don't go there because you know they're in a scary movie. They don't know that, right? So they're behaving more in the real world. So I think that's something I learned.
Interesting choice of the theater actor, basically.
Yeah.
I wonder what made you to cast
Stivene Lэнge, I think he was one of those that when I saw his picture and remember him, I was like, he's perfect for it. He has played this character before, somehow the military guy in the past, but never this way, never blind. And of course, he's Actor Studio New York. You know, as a director, your dream is always to have the best actors you can. I mean, it makes your life so much easier. And he was a stage actor. He knew the space perfectly. He was great at that in the movie. And this was a movie that really needed that. Like, he wasn't faking the blindness. He couldn't really see most of the time because he's wearing these contact lenses, and so 80% of his sight is impaired. So he needed to know the space perfectly to move around it and miss the kids by this much and be able to run around in the darkness in that cellar. So I was blessed to have him. I was inside.
Стой, где стоишь. Предупреждаю!
Не дыши.